Hi, I'm not a morning person. That's what that was all about. So yeah, welcome to the roughly first official episode of Brace Your Eyes, Dawn Has Arrived. And this is just something, just a basic, very short live stream that I plan on doing on mornings if I happen to be awake on a morning. But yeah, so welcome aboard. Let's see who's in the chat. Oh, Warrior King. Always on pleasure to have you around. And if you hear a weird echo in the background, that's because I'm also monitoring it on the television just to see how things go. Okay, so as you can tell, this isn't going to be extensive like Night Owling or the live stream of consciousness, nor on a regular schedule that Pull the Ultra Trigger used to be on. Which in retrospect I think was sort of a horrible mistake in its own right as far as being a podcast. Because the big problem with Pull the Ultra Trigger is, two big problems. One, it was a weekly podcast that shouldn't have happened for various reasons. Namely because it was mostly a major time suck that affected my schedule a lot. And two, and perhaps more importantly, it was connected to a not very good series. Like, there's a big difference between having enjoyment watching something as it airs and then retrospectively looking back on it and seeing what little to no replay value it had. And Ultraman Trigger, the series in which that podcast was based upon, was not a good series. There was a couple of fun episodes here and there, but there's a major reason because of those two reasons, and also the fact that that live stream constantly kept interrupting my feed and repeating the same videos over and over again. I'm not going to go into detail or try to explain it since I'm not very good at explaining things. Why do you think that is, Raph? Well, if I give you a billion answers, you probably, keep asking the same question, so F it. Sorry, I was being cynical or mean-spirited. Like I said, I'm not a morning person, so this show is definitely going to be a lot more cynical and mean-spirited in many regards. So with that said, Pull the Ultra Trigger has been unlisted, although there is a playlist for the episodes that were made. Warrior King says, I enjoyed Pull the Ultra Trigger for what it's worth. Good times watching, discussing with you, Andres, and everyone else. There's a couple episodes I had a lot of fun with. The episode where we watched the 4 kids dubbed. Although in retrospect, it was kind of a bad idea to choose 3 episodes where everything took place in the woods. When, there were a couple dubbed episodes that took place in city regions. And the episode with Dada, which was a lot of fun to do. But also equally fun because the episode itself is one of the stronger episodes from Trigger. But yeah, there's multiple reasons why Pull the Ultra Trigger is not available publicly, but there is a public playlist that you can access these unlisted videos. But the reason I bring up Ultra Trigger is that show was pretty taxing in its own right. And a similar thing happened with what was hopefully supposed to be a new podcast that I was going to do with Brayton called the movie Graveyard Shift. But I don't think that's happening anytime soon. And that's another thing where if you do something on a weekly basis, it's going to drain you eventually. And in retrospect, I think bi-weekly would have been a much better idea for either show. but then we'd have to visit 2 episodes of Pull the Ultra Trigger. And there's some people out there who can definitely do this on a weekly basis, like Daikaiju no Kamo, Kami, Daikaiju no Kami, I think his name is. He did it on a weekly basis, but it was very basic vlogs, and he's way more cynical and way more picky, actually way more picky about this stuff than I am. It's probably also one of the reasons why you don't see people like Graphenix Source or whatever, and Big Jake Films ever showing up on this stream again, because, I don't handle that kind of fan nonsense easily. It's just annoying, and it's best just to ignore it or just outright call it out for what it is. So, like I said, Brace Your Eyes, Dawn Has Arrived is pretty much going to be the nasty show. With that said, though, I don't know. We got a lot of material for the movie Graveyard Shift to turn into a proper podcast later on, but it is extremely taxing on both me and Brayton, and especially when you have regular real life getting in the way. And let's face it, things are not exactly peachy for anybody these days, regardless who you voted for or who you think is to blame. So with that said, though, to make a long story short, the reason I bring all this up is, now you can imagine how bad it would be to do a weekly broadcast on the week every week. Now imagine how it's like to be doing illustrations and artwork for every day on the day of a whole month. And that's what brings us to KaiJune. And KaiJune is something that honestly seemed like a good idea 6 months ago when I started preparing artwork for it. But in retrospect, it's so far turned out to be kind of, I don't want to call it a failure, because there's definitely some good points to it. But it definitely has some limited returns, or little returns, I guess. I don't know what the correct terminology would be. And yeah, Worry King, thank you for rating. It's like, real life is rough, politics sucks. Yeah. It's like, I know everyone is really pissed off with Biden, and I totally understand. Biden is just repeating a lot of the terrible mistakes that Clinton did, but at the same time, that doesn't exactly mean I want, El Rumpo back in the White House either. And let's face facts, both sides of the government are really, really screwing up. Like, you have all these conservatives saying that things would be better if the Republicans were back in control. But here's the thing, the Republicans have the House, and they're fumbling the ball worse than a naive liberal is often accused of dropping the ball. So yeah, don't give me that crap saying that we need that side of the government back into power again, because they're both in power and they're both screwing up. So So like I said, this is a show where if I end up going on some sort of horrific rampage later in life, bada bing, bada boom, this will be used against me. I'm joking, of course. I don't like the idea of hurting innocent people, so. Shit, this has gone off dark. So anyways, getting back to KaiJune, getting off that horrific tangent. KaiJune, I thought, would be a great way to get myself more notice, to get myself more public eyes. And so far, making 30 illustrations for this month, I already had roughly, I think, 27 illustrations finished and in the can. Well before June started, I only had 3 left. But as I started posting up everything daily, the big problem was trying to create decent descriptions, which I really don't have to. Mostly when people upload these illustrations for KaiJune, they just do a very short blurb and that's it. I decided to try to actually do some meaningful descriptions, and while some were done ahead of time, others were done on an almost daily basis, and that can be pretty taxing, especially again when real life is in the way, when there are more important, more real adult things to do, instead of writing about, oh, this is what I think about this character that I did not create or have any usage for. Secondly, a big problem with KaiJune is it's not that big of a deal anymore. Like, say, 2 or 3 years ago, and especially before the pandemic, KaiJune used to be a really big deal. And a lot of artists, both major and professional, um, they would post things often. If they couldn't do it daily, they would at least do it every once in a while. But here now, I think KaiJune has lost a lot of its luster, and a lot of fans have basically forgotten what KaiJune is in the first place. A lot of those aforementioned artists have kind of given up on it, understandably so. 30 illustrations for an entire month really is draining, and if you got to do it once every year, it can be even more so. I gave myself time to start, and even with my improving skills as an artist, it really was kind of a pain in the ass. Two, there's a lot of the fans, like, what is it? Before the pandemic, you'd have a wide variety of different kaiju fans or Godzilla fans who kind of understand or be open to the concept. Today, though, the majority of fans are sort of the MonsterVerse kids, or, people who are Godzilla extremists, best I could say. And even worse, fans lack a lot of, well, I don't want to say ignorance, because ignorance tends to say something negative. But there's a lot of fans who are just a little unaware of certain events going on amongst other fandoms or even events. The equivalent of somebody who doesn't celebrate certain holidays for religious or personal or work reasons. So when a holiday actually shows up, they're completely indifferent towards it. It'll be completely offensive to somebody who puts a lot of time and effort into said holiday. So that's kind of something that's happened with me. I announced that I'm going to be doing KaiJune, and what happens, I get a weirdo Jurassic Park person going into like an extreme rant about it. It's like, no, June is Triassic June. It's the 30th anniversary of Jurassic Park. And as you may have seen from that Jurassic Park live stream, that was also a terrible mistake that I should have handled better on my end, but I also in retrospect shouldn't have agreed to. And hold on, Warrior King has a really good point. Well said, Raph. I loved it if both sides just grew up and tried to work together. They don't have the best. They don't have to be the best friends. They just need to keep things running smoothly for everyone's sake. That's the thing. I don't think they care about everyone's sake. They do these things to really just benefit themselves, and it's not some weird conspiracy theory. If you're in charge of a company and you need to make more money, screw everyone else underneath you, and even your own allies for that matter. Which is why there's always so much infighting going on, especially in the conservative parties these days. And the pandemic did throw DeviantArt for a loop. To be honest, I think the pandemic threw everything for a loop. Even with how struggling the economy we were still doing fairly okay. And now look at us, I didn't think the post-apocalypse, so to speak, would be filled with moronic bureaucrats and higher prices at the 99-cent store. Actually, in the 99-cent store, you can still find some pretty good prices there if you know where to look for the right sales. But it's like, look at Dollar Tree. They might as well just call themselves, we're almost there to $2 tree. But yeah, it's the pandemic really kind of threw a lot of things off. And currently I'm kind of feeling it really bad right about now. And that's another thing. Trying to do KaiJune every day is exceptionally taxing, and it's just taking too much time away from more important things I need to do. Some things I'm more than happy to share, but also some things that I'm more than happy to kind of leave buried. Error to myself. And they say you should never be an open book, but at the same time, I'd rather let you guys know what's going on. Because a lot of you guys are really cool fans. A lot of you are very supportive. I have some of the best subscribers and just general fans imaginable. But yeah, every time I post one of these illustrations, I get like maybe a measly 20 or 40 likes, as opposed to something, every once in a while I'll get 100 or so. But yeah, it's not the same as the old days where when Chromia the Techno Slime Girl, that character that originated on DeviantArt, when that character had a brief moment of extreme success, I could do various illustrations of her because I wanted to, and she was hot. And I would get at least 300 favorites over a week. Now it's like we're already halfway into the month, and there's extreme stagnation as far as favorites and shares go, especially in shares. I know that a lot of people think views are very important when it comes to illustrations, but views are like whispers in the wind. They're there for a moment, but they really don't contribute anything in the long run. So that's another thing. I'm getting, limited returns, or very, I think it's limited returns. I think that's the terminology I'm trying to look into. But yeah, I'm not doing very well in that regard. Three, um, as as popular as fan art can be, fan art really doesn't help me in the long run. As you may know, I recently started a series earlier last year called Pachishoma, which is a play on both my name, my pen name at least, and Pachimon, which is sort of a an unofficial um, an unofficial term for a series of bootleg trading cards from the 70s that featured a bunch of repurposed giant monster images. And I'm actually working on a video going into detail about that. Although I don't know if I want to make it really professional or if it's just going to be a very edited, very well done live chat. Sort of like something I'm currently working with Earth Paragon, and you saw a little snippet of that when we showed off some of 202 Vincent's artwork. But the thing with Pachishomon is it's sort of a spoof gag series inspired by these 70s bootleg cards, repurposing pre-existing fan art I've done. Fan art that I can never publish officially, even if even if like Toho or Tuberai Productions came to me, it's like, hey, we want you to contribute artwork to our book. And it's like, okay, this is too old. You got to do better. And I can do better. So the Pachishoma is basically just an attempt to kind of repurpose a lot of these old fan art illustrations, which, while popular, really, really does not help me in the long run as far as publishing original work goes. And I know, as iffy as spoof and parody law can be, I think I'm doing pretty good with the Pachishoma. And there are way more horrific examples of people not doing the right things as far as this is concerned. But yeah, Pachishoma and the Pachimon phenomenon are two videos in the making, and they're both going to be separated as opposed to thrown into one. And number three, to be honest, I am very happy that some of the illustrations actually half the illustrations, and not most of the illustrations I've done for KaiJune are going to benefit a project that I hope to get published before the year is over, or at least get some real eyes on before the year is over. Because I'm trying to get together a monster art book. And I have to use the term art book because what it truly is just a little too complicated for most people. You guys are smart. You'll stick around and listen to the explanation, but you try to mention what the book is, and then it's like it's like showing dogs a new card trick. You just dumbfounded faces. But basically, it's a picture book, but with a lot of character-related information and text within. So instead of it just being a basic art book where it's just the illustrations with maybe a little caption at the bottom telling you what it is, it's basically going to be like one side of the page will be an illustration of a original monster character of mine, and the other side will be a very long page-length, multi-paragraphed article about who the character is in an in-fiction, in-universe type setting. So it's really sort of like a guidebook to all the original monsters I can cook up. The thing is, I want this book to be very significant, and so as such, I'm trying to get at least 144 pages done to 250 pages done. And thankfully, I'm already nearing the 100-page count. But there's a lot of writing to be done. Hopefully, my friend Berkion will help in the editing. If not, I'll see what else I can do. And I'm going to be very proud of the book as it is. It's really just my attempt just to get something kaiju related out there. Hey, Goji Shay has joined us. I've come back and rewatched the stream after I was out of church. But one little thing I did want to let you know, Raph, is that tonight I'll be watching Human Vapor for the first time ever with my dad. Excellent, Goji Shay. Let me know if it's the Japanese or American version. I like both, but I have a slight preference for the American version. And Cody, hi, Cody Batch. I haven't seen you in a while. Always good to see you, my friend. That book sounds something I'd happily buy. Sounds cool. Thank you very much, Cody Batch. I will hopefully keep updates. We'll actually be seeing some updates pretty soon. And also, Warrior King says, cool project. Thank you very much. And he also says, sorry to hear all that, Raph. I admit that the pandemic started. I haven't been commenting online as frequently as I used to, but I have been enjoying your work and those of other kaiju artists. Thank you very much, Warrior King. Your support is deeply appreciated and very beneficial, I might also add, if you know what I mean. So with that said, I'm kind of officially canceling KaiJune. I don't want to be uploading a new illustration every day, especially since it's limited returns. That's the term I was thinking of. With all the limited returns I'm getting, with all the unwanted stress on kind of frivolous, like as much as I love love kaiju and giant monsters, and as much as I adore this stuff, if it gets in the way of more stressful real life situations, especially since, I have responsibilities that are definitely more important. Trying to do fan art of Godzilla versus the Hulk is just a distraction that gets in the way. Don't worry, Godzilla versus the Hulk is still coming. That illustration is so close to completion, I might as well finish it. And not only that, but I'd rather do more of the original monster stuff, or at least the Enshohma re-edits for my previous fan art, than trying to appeal to an algorithm that really doesn't care for you in the end. Yeah, and don't worry, Cody Batch, we're all dealing with life. That's another thing. So yeah, I'm canceling KaiJune for my own health, and just because there's much more beneficial things I can do. As you may have listened, I recently did a podcast with Patrick Galvin based on the Return of Godzilla, and that was very rough. Thankfully, Patrick helped with some of the editing, and thankfully, finally, my version of Windows allows to have a free editing program in it. It's not the best. There's no fade-ins, there's no dissolves, but it is definitely a world of help, and that's how we were able to get this podcast done. But re-listening to the podcast, amazingly, it came out a lot better than when I first listened to it. I'm somebody who rarely likes to revisit past things. I'm not one of those creators who likes to completely delete their entire channel if they're disappointed with everything they've done in the past. But it's also hard for me to kind of revisit certain things without, being angry about, I could have done better here, I could have done better there. But no, re-listening to the Return of Godzilla podcast, yeah, it came out incredibly well, and Patrick Galvin was a major sweetheart in that regard. I forgot to mention he edited some of the video, but the majority of the podcast itself, he really took a crack at it. So yeah, it really is sort of a collaborative effort between the two of us. And we kind of want to do something with Godzilla vs. Megalon, because I've come to the terrifying realization that nobody likes Godzilla vs. Megalon. And I know I usually use that argument all the time that a bad Godzilla movie is infinitely better than the best Asylum movie. But there's some people out there who are just really hateful and cynical towards Megalon, and I kind of want to give Megalon a fair shake. So me and Patrick are going to get together again and try to get a Godzilla vs. Megalon podcast done before summer is over. And we're going to bring in a third guest. I won't say who, though, but look forward to it. Warrior King says, when I imagine Godzilla vs. Hulk, I envision Hulk flying at the G-Man with all his might, only to be swatted away like a tennis ball over and over again. Laugh out loud, but that might be bias. I like both characters equally well, and the Godzilla vs. Hulk image I'm working on, that was inspired by the injustice that we never got a proper Marvel Godzilla vs. Hulk back in the 70s. And considering that back then Marvel was more than happy to use each and every one of its character for each and every little whacking thing imaginable, I'm honestly surprised there wasn't at least an issue or two where Godzilla and the Hulk duked it out. And the great thing about the Hulk is, yeah, he's not kaiju size. He's, 6 to 7 feet at most, at least traditionally. There are versions of the Hulk throughout the history of Marvel Comics that definitely does count as either a pseudo kaiju, like the Ang Lee movie where, he grows to almost 20 feet tall. Or there are, alternate versions of Hulk where he is definitely can be considered a kaiju, like that not very good version, anime version of the Marvel universe, done by the same people who did Ninja High School and Gold Diggers, I believe. They had a version of the Hulk that became a giant monster, and weirdly enough, he was in a relationship with a female version of Tony Stark. Not a very good series from what I remember. But yeah, there's definitely some kaiju versions of the Hulk. But in my mind, the Hulk is kind of like, imagine if the Hulk and Godzilla battled, especially the Marvel version and the Marvel versions in the 70s. The way I look at it, it's sort of like David and Goliath, except David can actually hold his own and doesn't need the Rock to fight Goliath. So they're both, in a sense, equally matched. Just one smaller than the other, obviously, but they can both throw down and fight each other. So yeah, I honestly would very much like to see what a battle between Hulk and Godzilla would be like. It would be like David and Goliath, except David has the strength of Hercules to match Goliath's height and his own strength. So yeah, that's something that could be a lot of fun, and if illustrated just right, I think it would be great. Granted, the illustration I'm working on is going to be ridiculously simplistic. It's just, again, Hulk flying at Godzilla. But yeah, I'm honestly surprised they never did that. Instead, we got Godzilla versus Cowboys, which is so ridiculously underwhelming. It's like you could have done a lot better there, I think. Um, Cody Batch says, I have yet to watch the whole podcast of Returning Godzilla is one of my all-time favorite movies, as well as 1985. Yes, we say a lot of really positive things about it. And Cody goes on to say Godzilla vs. Megalon is good, goofy fun. Indeed, it is. And then he also says Hulk was in love with a gender-bent Iron Man. That sounds like some seriously fan-fiction-y stuff. Well, I don't mind it when comic books play around with like what if scenarios, and not officially the what if series. I mean just like, oh, what if this went this way, or what if we decide to do something with this, and that's a whole different rant or tangent I don't want to get into. But that's one of the things I love about DC Comics. They can do these different various versions and self-contained stories related to all their characters, and it's no big deal. We're trying out the same recipe. We're trying out the same food, but through different recipes and techniques, so to speak. And Marvel does that way less, but Marvel does have its own history of like what if stories here, what if stories there. Sort of different continuities, self-contained tales that you don't need to read a billion other comics to kind of understand what's going on. So I do deeply appreciate that. Unfortunately, I think that kind of creativity and looseness is being quickly lost thanks to the homogeny of mainstream media. Like Marvel was more than okay to play around with its characters for the longest time. But now that the Marvel movies have proven themselves so successful, even the bad ones, that they've become incredibly homogenized with the movies. So any kind of creativity in the comics is kind of stifled because of which. Um, I just realized something. I should have gotten a glass of water. That's a good point, Raph. Not a bad thing to think outside of the box every once in a while. Oh, indeed. I think that's another thing why I like the Godzilla franchise. Yes, many of these films are directly connected to one another, like the Heisei era. But I also do enjoy that with the Reiwa era and the Millennium era, we can have a bunch of what if self-contained different variations of the same narrative without having to be absolutely locked into a continuity. So that's what I definitely enjoy. And I'm actually looking forward to whatever the next Godzilla movie in November will be. I'm glad it's not just a straight sequel to Shin Godzilla and it's going to be its own thing. So trying out something new, so to speak. It's much more creative and keeps the formula fresh, even if the formula itself is cliche, hence Japanese monster movies. You know what? I wish I had some music to play at this time. I'm honestly tempted just to get a glass of water. Um Give me a couple of minutes. I will be right back. Okay, sorry about that little break there, ladies and gentlemen. Hopefully that was less than a minute. But this morning's sponsor is Sunny D Tangy Original, along with Fruit Mist, peach flavored sparkling water, which I shall enjoy right now. Oh my goodness, I needed that. Oh boy. Okay. Godzilla Zero definitely sounds like it has potential to be awesome. I really do hope so. There's a lot of really cool people working on the movie. But at the same time, we haven't heard anything from this film other than maybe just a couple of set photos, and even then, they were not very significant set photos. So we'll see what happens. But I am honestly happy that they are counting down to what hopefully might be a reveal of what the movie will be, along with its official title. And that should happen within the next 20 or so days on Toho's official Twitter. But at the same time, I wish we got a trailer because it's like we're already in June and the movie is supposed to be coming out in November. On the other hand, we might be seeing quite a bit in the next few months, but I also get the feeling that maybe the movie's not completely finished, and it may be a Shin Ultraman situation where the date will be pushed back, and then when we finally get the movie, it might be worth the wait, but I didn't want to wait to begin with. Okay, so I'm going to change the screen a little bit because not only the main point of this stream today was kind of not only to officially cancel KaiJune, but to basically show you what the other illustrations were going to be like, because I will be posting them online, but not on a daily manner like I was originally going to. I decided to go against it for various reasons mentioned towards the beginning of this, because again, it's a time waste, an effort waste, and I'd rather be using this time to work on commissions. I'd rather be using this time to do more original character artwork and to try to get another project done before the year is over. Especially for Son of Monster Palooza in October, I'm trying to get at least 2 comics completed. Well, the thing is, those 2 comics, they are completed. They just need coloring and publishing. So I'm well past the halfway point, but I gotta move to get to the halfway point. So what I'm gonna do now is, oh wait a minute, actually give me a moment. Yeah, if I'm going to be talking about Hulk versus Godzilla, I might as well share what the inks for that was going to look like, along with the other illustrations. Oh, okay, there you are, a preview image. That works just as well. Okay, and what else was going to be there? Bum bum bum. Nah. Okay, I think that's good enough. So yeah, let me prepare a slideshow that will play in the background. And that way I can just talk about what I was going to do and not going to do. But I was basically going to show you what the 28 illustrations were. There were 2 other illustrations are in the work, but I don't think I'm going to be showing those off. But yeah, I was so close to the finish line, but my legs are giving out. I'm about to have a heart attack. Screw it. I'm going to sit on the side and enjoy some Sunny D. Ah. Okay. And that's another thing. A lot of these streams I do, I need to kind of keep fun and light. So I think in the future when I do movie live watches, I need to be a lot more loose about them as well. Okay, so I'm going to be showing off some of the illustrations. I'm not going to be going into too much detail, but I wanted to show you what's been posted so far and what will be coming up in the near future. So, hey, that works out great. Hold on. I'm going to fill out the screen a little bit. These images are going to be slightly stretched just because of the way I have it set up. Oh, hold on. Let me rework it a bit. Center the screen. Fit the screen. Okay, yeah, let's change. Yeah, let me fix this a bit. Now I'm getting happy. Okay, which is a bad idea. I started this all piss and vinegar, and now I'm roses and marshmallows. Okay, so yeah, let's see what's on July 11th. Says Cody Brash. Is when I think we're going to be seeing something significant with the Godzilla Zero movie. So, and that's not the official title to the best of my knowledge either. So we still have a ways to go. Okay, so I prepared this folder of all the KaiJune illustrations, and let's just quickly go over what's been posted so far. This is an original character called Granite Antaeus. He's technically a rock giant, even though he's not really a rock giant. And this is going to be for the Kaiju book. He's an original character again. This is another Enshohma illustration. Again, I reincorporated a fan art piece, in this case, an old hypothetical version of what a fully aquatic Godzilla would look like. Although the design is so far removed from just being basic fan art, and so far removed from being a kind of a fan redesign, that I think I might actually incorporate, redo this piece, make it a real illustration, and reincorporate this character as sort of a cheeky little reference to Godzilla. Yes, Cody Bash, I agree. The rock guy rocks. But yeah, I did this as a Enshohma illustration. And here's the thing, I'm doing a lot of photo collaging with what I hope to be public domain illustrations. Public domain photographs mixed with my own photography. Very simple photography I just do on a cell phone. And reincorporate basic previous artwork. Again, it's heavily inspired by the 1970s bootleg cards that were common in Japanese toy stores and candy shops. So yeah, this is supposed to be a fully aquatic Godzilla, and these are public domain illustrations of a Japanese public domain photographs of a Japanese ocean, although I don't know where this is supposed to be located, to be honest. The clouds are my original photography mixed with the others. This is a heavily altered picture of a coast from San Francisco. I've altered it quite a bit. I think with parody law and photo collage, I can get away with it, but there's a good chance I might have to redo this when I go to book. And this is just a recolored version of Miss Blue. You know, the horrible blue-skinned harlot nobody likes, except for us. So this was another repurposed illustration that will be in the Kaiju book. This is basically my take on the Kraken. I didn't want to do a basic, boring, giant octopus. But it's basically done as sort of an old-school illustration. It's effective, but it definitely is a little rough. But you'll be seeing a lot of illustrations like that for some of the older monsters. Cody says, I'm sorry, I see a chance to make a bad joke. I'm going to do it. Cool aquatic Goji, by the way, almost looks like a mix between Godzilla and the Loch Ness Monster from one of the Scooby-Doo movies. From that one Scooby-Doo movie, I know what you're talking about. Okay, this was a mini Kaiju portrait. Not at a friendly printing size, but good enough just to basically show off. And I have to, before I continue, I got to completely acknowledge the help I got from my friends Rosie, Earth Baragon, Hooks and Fang, and Mark Rivers, who did a lot of the live tracing for me. But Earth Baragon in particular, he went far and beyond the call of duty to digitally ink some of these illustrations to make my job way easier. And I'll be mentioning which ones he worked on. I did the coloring in the original sketches or inks, but he would go in and give them like real digital vectoring, and that was great. That was a big help. But this is basically the Gravity Goliath, aka the colossal moon monster from the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla series. He's always a fun character to draw, but this is a very basic portrait. And because it's fan art, I'm kind of taking the easy way out by incorporating real-world photographs to add texture, hence the clouds in the background. It's a cheat, but it's a fan piece, so I think I can get away with it. No big deal. This is another Enshohma illustration. where I took an old fan piece I did of Gloop and Gleep from the Herculoids. And this is definitely a public domain photograph of Florida from a very good website that whose name escapes me at the moment. These rocks, these were again photo collage. I took these from another public domain image, cut them out, and kind of posted it beforehand. The water is a screen capture from news footage, and the clouds are a mix of the original clouds from this photograph and clouds that I took on the cell phone. And this is this little additional hotel here that I put in the background. That's from an old vintage postcard of Florida, which is also considered public domain. So I'm very confident that this will be okay to be reprinted in the book itself. This has been a very old inks I did long ago, back in 2010, I think, of Diabolico, one of the main villains from Power Rangers Lightspeed Rescue. And this was originally meant as gift art to the voice actor David Kaplan, I think is. Hope I got his name right. I know his last name is Kaplan for sure. But yeah, this was meant as gift art, but I've never had a chance to see the man again in other conventions. But it's finally colored, and if I know he's going to be showing up at a convention, I'll do my best to hand it to him, because Kaplan, damn it, David Kaplan, I think. Hold on, let me bring up my freaking DeviantArt page so I know we're on the same page here. Bum, 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 bum. So much illustrations. Hopefully there's not too bad of an echoing effect going on. Neil Kaplan. Of course I got the first name wrong. Yeah, Neil Kaplan was the voice actor for Diabolico, and he befriended and basically hung out with me throughout the third or possibly fourth Power Morphicon convention in 2013 or 2014. I forget which. I think it was 2013. And he was just a complete sweetheart. Of course, back then Power Morphicon was way more, I don't want to call it amateurish, but it was definitely a lot more easygoing, I think is the best way to describe it, where celebrities could be, their tables could be seated right next to the tables of independent artists like myself. Now today they have it completely separated, and Hasbro is overwatching everything. So, which is okay, because if celebrities need to make more money that way, by all means do so. But yeah, I was there for some of the early Power Morphicons, and there were some pretty magical moments. So I celebrated it by doing a horrible demon. And also, apologies about the eyes. This is a weird side effect of using OBS. If an image is too red, it just starts that kind of weird PNG cutout holes here, which is completely not exactly unavoidable. But yeah, this is a problem here. Like what is it? If I did something, then there's nothing I can do to fix that, unfortunately. And I'm not willing to update my OBS for various reasons. It's so iconic to see a lot of the times people who play most evil villains end up being the nicest people. Yeah, indeed. Yeah, that seems to be the common gag. Okay, so I did this for both self-promotion and also promotion for Kaiju Days, which is sort of an upcoming comedy comic book. Basically a bunch of kaiju women trying to live normal everyday lives. I did not create this character. Invisirex. She is an original character by the creator of Kaiju Days. But I decided, since she was relatively popular, I wonder why. I decided to have her interact with my original character, Mechanohoxen, who is basically my mad scientist character, Jack Hoxton's own giant robot. Really crappy giant robot, as you can see. So, but I was really hoping this illustration would be kind of shared, but unfortunately it wasn't. So, kind of a waste of time. But the great thing is I've done two alternate versions that'll be shown later. One with just Invisirex herself, and one with Mechanohoxen. And the Mechanohoxen half can be repurposed in the upcoming Kaiju book. Oh, and this is the text thing going on. I'm not going to read this, so I'll just leave it a bit for you guys to read. Okay, this is another repurposed Pachishohma card. I did my own fan take on the Power Ranger villain Face Stealer. But for Pachishohma, I re-altered it heavily, and because it was basically a redesign of the original character, when I altered it, it was so far removed from the original that it's basically become its own original monster. Now, originally it was a part of the Pachishohma series, but again, because this one's definitely far more different than its original, I can kind of pass it off as an original villain. But this is Jolly the Juggernaut. And this is basically just some creepy, bizarre clown monster. I haven't really thought of a full story for him, but maybe that's it. He's just a really creepy, scary, bizarre clown monster. Now, there are sort of some Pachimon-style bootleggery going on. Like, the little... his hat here ends with a Nova head. Nova is a villain from Ultraman Leo. But yeah, I think I might actually end up using the original artwork version as opposed to this card version for the book as its own original monster, but we'll see what happens. Real life gets in the way, ladies and gentlemen. There's a phone ringing. I'm not going to worry about it. So this is another fan art piece based on the Ultraman Great monster Gigasaurus. And I love the monsters from Ultraman Great, and I do want to end up doing a bunch of illustrations based on Ultraman Great on the various giant monsters connected to Ultraman Great, also known as Ultraman Towards the Future. Let's just use its official English title. But, again, fan art, and even, I don't know how I'm going to repurpose this even for a Pachishohma illustration. If you guys have any other questions, you guys go ahead and ask me in the comment section, but I'm going to keep this under just a little over an hour. There's a whole video based on this character, but this was sort of a critique on a lot of the cliches you see with American giant robot design. But we can discuss this another time, so. But I'll leave it here for you guys to kind of just take a look. Alright, now this one I'm very happy with. Rayzilla. He's an artist on DeviantART and Facebook. He took this really nice picture of the parking lot outside of the Crown Plaza Hotel, I believe. And with his permission, I was able to repurpose it along with an old commission I did of the lead hero of Mirror Man. I altered him heavily to make him a much creepier looking character. I also added one of the giant Moe heads, I hope I'm saying that correctly, from Godzilla vs. Megalon, and as well as a cape from a Kamen Rider villain. I think Dr. K or Dr. Kate, I think is the name of the character. To create basically Phantom Denim and Denham, or Donham. Phantom Donham, and that's deliberately named after the American actor from Godzilla vs. Megalon. And the moon is from my own video footage I took of a full moon one night. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way this one came out. But it is definitely going to remain as a Pachishohma entry. And I will be actually introducing the Pachishohma cards as its own gallery in the art book. Or the Kaiju guidebook, so to speak. But again, it will just basically be a basic gallery with very limited information. But I'm really happy with the way this one came out. And this one, surprisingly, was much more popular than I expected. That's the sad thing about being an artist. What you think is going to fly doesn't, and what you are not very impressed with or you just marginally okay with ends up being ridiculously popular. But yeah, this character was a lot of fun to repurpose and do, and if I was a thinner man, I probably would cosplay as this thing, but you're all welcome to cosplay him if you want to. Warrior King says, I need a Kawaii hero OC of my own someday. Well, you know who to come if you need one. So, Genghis Grub, this is an original monster who'll be showing up in the art book. I wrote a very extensive text for him that's currently available on DeviantArt, so check that out. But yeah, it gives you a hint what the book might be like. I'm using DeviantArt as sort of a backup for a lot of these entries I'll be doing in the months to come. You should be happy to know how it turned out. It looks great. Thank you, Cody Bash. Okay, so again, talking about things that I thought would just be unpopular crap that I didn't really give a crap about and then turned out to be ridiculously popular. This is a very old, ridiculously old inks I did of Iris from Gamera 3, and I do like Iris a lot as a character, but this is highly inaccurate to the original costume. Um, and I just did this as a quickie, ink wise. So yeah, I didn't do any digital cleanup at all. This is basically just a photograph of the original inks. All I did was I gave it a bunch of digital coloring, and somehow this has turned out to be one of the most popular entries in the KaiJune, which is both surprising but also embarrassing in my opinion. So there you go. So okay, this one I had a lot of fun doing, but then again, it was a very simplistic character to do, and again, Earth Baragon was a big help with the digital inkings from a basic pencil sketch. But this is based on the Smog Factory, a very minor animated character slash pseudo kaiju from Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster, or Godzilla vs. Hedorah. And as simple as this guy was, I'm very happy that I was able to remake and sort of homage the original animated sequence, as well as adding a lot of textures from photographs. This is from a crumpled up foil texture I found online. Hopefully I altered enough, but again, it's fan art, so I don't think it really matters. And with that said, I really have no idea how I'm going to repurpose this guy into a Pachishouma character. But yeah, this was a lot of fun. So, okay, another Pachishouma illustration. This is Prince Kira Kolbot, and it's basically what if Rodan was Bluebeard from Legend, but he abducted women and took them to the moon. So yeah, he's basically an evil alien Robin Baron who also happens to be a giant space pterodactyl. This is repurposed from an old commission I did for our very own Warrior King, based on the original 1956 Rodan. Although the idea of turning him into an alien Bluebeard analog was directly based on a Toho film called Kanto 55. Hold on. Let me get the exact title for this movie. Bum. Okay, what was the influences here? Oh, yes. There's a alien version of the famous fairy tale villain Bluebeard from a 1969 movie called Kanto 55, The Grand Outer Space Adventure. And the Kanto series were these popular comedies from the 50s and 60s, which would start off very lighthearted and silly with this pair of friends going on these wacky adventures. But then they would, famously in the third act, they would start to get serious and grim and present a message. And the Grand Space Adventure is no different, even though it's the one science fiction entry where they go into outer space and you think it's going to be, it starts off all fun, but then it kind of ends on a somewhat sad apocalyptic note in the third act. But yeah, on the way they meet an alien version of Bluebeard who has captured a bunch of famous historical women as his wives. And that gag ends on a pretty dark note too. But this is a combination between that movie's version of Bluebeard and Rodan. The rocks are taken from a friend's vacation photos of a rock face. I altered it to make them look lunar. The space background is all original, but this is a public domain photo of Earth that I also re-altered a little bit. So it'd be, again, parody law, photo collage reasons. These two people are my brothers. That's Miguel and that's Gabe. They're my brothers. They're very cool creatives in their own right. And they did a comedy series called Understanding the Cosmos from 2012 to 2013, where Miguel played a disgruntled and incredibly horrible science show host, and Gabe was his suffering astronaut sidekick. But yeah, I decided to add them into the illustration. I think they're hiding from Prince Kira Kolbot beard here, but not so well. So I'm really happy with the way this one came out, even though it's really kind of stupid, all things considering. I do like this guy quite a bit. Pretty funny, despite the grim implications of being a giant flying Bluebeard analog. Thank you, Warrior King. And Cody Batch says, good job, Raph. Those animated interludes in Godzilla vs. Hedorah were so freaking trippy. Indeed, I think one of the main reasons I love Godzilla vs. Hedorah is it's like Sesame Street meets Lovecraftian horror with Godzilla and another Japanese monster. But that's a whole different video in its own right. So okay, now this was done for the podcast recently, and this was basically meant for the main title card, and it's my take on my one of my favorite scenes from Godzilla 1985, or Return of Godzilla, but I'm probably just going to end up calling it Godzilla 1985 due to nostalgic bias. But yeah, this is a scene where he's just destroyed the Super X by literally pushing a building on it, and it's an almost perfect shot that we go into detail in the podcast. But yeah, this is with the exception of reusing public domain clouds in the background. The buildings are directly based on the model buildings from the movie, but I had to redraw them myself using Photoshop. The clouds are repurposed from my Icy Angel fan art, but they actually work out quite well. The Godzilla here is full original inks, and again, this was just a basic live tracing from Earth Baragon, and then and I redid the building here too. So this one came out incredibly well. A lot of people enjoyed it. So KaiJune kind of ended on a somewhat decent note with this guy, and especially with the podcast it's connected to. So, and I hope to do something just as good, if not even better, with the Godzilla vs. Megalon picture. So, and yes, Cody Batch says that is such an awesome scene, absolutely epic indeed. And Warrior King says one of my favorite movie scenes as well. Yes, thank you very much, guys. So, I'm just going to say it right now, I'm very, very cynical, skeptical, and just outright unforgiving of a lot of the crap that paranormal lore and research has brought to the table in modern times, especially considering how it ties into like conspiracy theories and bigotry and hate speech. It's like you can't think about reptilian aliens and ufology without somebody coming aboard and saying, oh, that's because they're secretly this group of people I hate, and hence why I must shoot up this pizza restaurant, that kind of nonsense. So I'm very unforgiving of cryptozoology. With that said, as modern mythology and as really good like fantasy fodder and ideas for future stories, it's great. It's fantastic. I'm glad that we still have mythical monsters in the form of cryptozoology. And this is my take on a ninjin, which, if you get into the origins of what a ninjin is, it's pretty embarrassing and pathetic. Basically, a Japanese equivalent of a 4chan hoax made to basically support Japanese whaling and to basically say whales are evil and must be hunted, because they're giving rise to these weird giant beluga whale-like albino mermaid horrors here. Even though technically the ninjins are not really menacing creatures in any regard. They're just creepy. But I do like the ninjin enough outside their really terrible origins that I plan on incorporating a couple of mythical monsters, both contemporary and ancient, to my book. And this is my take on the ninjin. I'm just trying to figure out what's a good bent for its story-wise. But I'm thinking that I might actually have the ninjin and Boo, who's a recurring alien girl character of mine, be distantly related, because in my big conceit for the Zeta Coolians, which is basically the unofficial name for gray aliens in my original fiction, that despite the fact that they look like little bug-eyed gray people, they're not related to humans or insects whatsoever. They're actually cetaceans. Just little floaty alien land cetaceans. Cetaceans, of course, is the scientific term for whales. And with that said, I think the ninjin is a distant relative to the Zeta Coolians. It's sort of like how humans are distantly related to a cyclops. A ninjin is that to a Zeta Coolian. So I think that's what the explanation is I will be doing with the ninjin here. Other than that, I'm really happy with how majestic it came out. Warrior King says, always appreciated how angry and ominous Goji 84 looked like in that film. And then he goes on, depressing to think about since I really enjoyed cryptids as a kid, since as a monster fan in general, I love the idea there actually being monsters of some sort out there, being out there somewhere. Jugless Juggler, long time no see. Welcome, Jugless Juggler. This is I'm probably going to end this live stream in the next 20 minutes or half an hour. It's not going to be a very long one. But I'm basically, just to get you, just to let you know, I'm officially canceling my KaiJune, just so I can focus on real world matters. Because as fun as KaiJune has been this month, well, somewhat fun, it's really been more stressful and time consuming. But with that said, these have all been the illustrations I've uploaded, and it's been 17 days nonstop of KaiJune. So let's look at what you will be seeing on my various websites in the near future, but I will not be doing on a daily basis. So this is Pinky the Guppler whale, and he's another deep sea kaiju. This is a design I've had for a long time, basically a giant anglerfish. I kind of abandoned the concept after Godzilla the Animated Series from 1998 did an even better take on the deep sea anglerfish monster through the Deep Dweller, who is, while not the most spectacular monster come from that series, is still a very fun character from a very fun episode of Godzilla the Animated Series. So yeah, the deep Dweller as well as Angoras from Ultraman 80 are definitely the best anglerfish-based monsters in kaiju history, in my opinion. Angoras is sort of a giant fish version of the Gorgo story, but she's a lot more fun and a lot more enjoyable as a character, along with her little child. And Deep Dweller is just not only a very good monster design, but just, again, a very fun brawler from a very fun episode. Pinky the Guppler whale. I don't have much to say about this character other than that he's a mysterious giant anglerfish creature who is more benign than villainous. But still, I decided to make him very creepy and deep sea. And it's funny, when you do the artwork and you try and decide the colors, originally I thought I would just make him like bright tropical colors. But then I realized if I made him brown, he would just look too much like the Deep Dweller, so I went with the pink alternative. I think it works out okay, but I had a lot of fun doing this. I did a lot of effects tricks to get this looking the way it did. But it's also, forgive me, I'm hiccuping. It's also very, very simple. Hey, Laura's in the chat. Why is this so early? I'm so confused. Laura, this is my new show. Brace Your Eyes, Dawn Has Arrived. That's the title. I'm not telling you that in general. And this is basically just a very simple me by myself podcast. If I'm up early in the morning, I just talk about things I like. Today, and like I just told Jugless Juggler in the chat, I've decided that I'm going to officially cancel KaiJune just for mental health reasons. But I want to show off the artwork that was going to be posted in the days ahead. And this is one of the characters in question. Pinky the Guppler whale. So, and yes, I'm very proud of that name, as stupid as it is. Warrior King follows up from his past contest. And yes, cryptids are great modern mythological figures. Indeed, I do not want to live in the world where Nessie isn't a thing. Okay, I'm going to take another quick drink, ladies and gentlemen. This time I'm having some fruit mist, peach flavored. The only good carbonated drink you can find down at the Dollar Tree. Because it's like sparkling water, but it's a liter. 2 liters. Oh my goodness. That hits the spot. Warrior King oh yeah, Jugless Juggler says anglerfishes are cool. Thank you. Warrior King says, I like your angler whale design. I'd like to see him swimming alongside a submarine or something for scale purposes. Also dig how, despite looking creepy, he's actually a chill kaiju. Yes, yes. A lot of anglerfish-based monsters are usually portrayed as villainous, and probably because the anglerfish is, unavoidably ugly. Even by deep sea, well, actually, there's relatively uglier deep sea fish. The hagfish, for example. Cody Batch says I prefer early mornings anyways. I'm usually busiest later in the day. Yeah, yeah. So it's nice to see some familiar faces again, as opposed to our usual late night streams. Even though I know that people like Laura are night owls like myself. So also a big shout out to Griffin and Nick, her baby and husband respectively. If you guys are in the room, I'm saying hello to all three of you. You're all awesome people. So, well, I don't know. Griffin might take over the world later. It's still too early to tell. So, all right. So, okay. So this next character is Terra Grande. And here's the thing. The weird thing I've noticed, like this character seemed original when I originally inked him back in 2021. But in retrospect, whenever anybody does a 30-day kaiju challenge thing, whether it be Titantober, KaiJune, KaiJuly, there's always a taco-based monster thrown in. So with that says, I came very close to abandoning this character because everyone and their mother has done an evil taco monster. But then I realized I can incorporate this character into the Glue series. So yeah, this is what happens when Jack Hawkson, the mad scientist, and Count Borogan, the demon wizard, team up to try to create a homunculus. And they end up creating the ultimate taco-based monster. Because it makes sense. Tacos are made from organic elements. If you're a wizard and you have dark magic powers, you can animate it along with this organic elements being brought to life through genetic engineering. So a combination between Jack Hawkson's genetic engineering skills and Count Borogan's necromancy brought forth this terrible monster. But yeah, I'm kind of happy with Terra Grande, but again, it's everyone and their mother has done a evil taco monster in some form of another. And what's worse is when I've shown this design off in the past at comic book shops, you always get that one guy who says, "Oh, yeah, you had to make it because you're Mexican, right?" Screw you. It's like everyone eats tacos, for crying out loud. Anyways. Laura says, they're sleeping. All these theme months are doing art every day. Seems very taxing, and I don't know if they're really a good idea. I'm not an artist, though. I'm glad you were able to prioritize. Damn it, I'm going to say that word. Prioritize yourself. Thank you, Laura. You may not be an artist, but you know exactly where I'm coming from. Actually, you are an artist. You do wonderful work with cosplaying and damn it, not sewing. Stitchery? What's the correct terminology? You'll probably tell me. But yeah, no. Cosplayers are definitely artists in their own right. So, seamstress. Yeah, seamstress cosplayer. Yeah, you're definitely very talented in that regard. So yeah, you're an artist and a craftsman in your own right. But yes, trying to do artwork every day, even if you have a head start, is very taxing. And uploading it and taking an hour or two to get the descriptions just right is one thing. Because had I uploaded this guy 2 days from now, I would definitely go into the full detail about how Count Borogan and Jack Hawkson teamed up to create this thing and how it went horribly wrong. So, by the way, about the background, again, I kind of cheated here, but I'm also proud with what happened. I found this really cool publicity photo from Suing. Okay, I get it, Laura. Okay, so basically I kind of remade I took a photograph from a Godzilla publicity photo for Godzilla vs. Hedorah, and I just remade the image using the photograph as reference. So this is a factory that Godzilla and Hedorah have their first fight with. And I think it kind of ties in with this evil taco monster here. But yeah, it's like I'm 50-50. On one hand, I really like the way this guy came out. On the other hand, everybody and their mother has done a taco monster, so I'm going to move on. Cody Batch says, I could defeat a taco monster all on my own, if you know what I mean. Tacos. Yeah, but at the same time, I don't think you want to eat this guy because he's a genetically engineered necromancy homunculus So I don't know how he's going to go down. Next up, we have the Lizinator from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. Now, for those of you who don't know, Power Rangers turned out to be a surprise success, and originally there was only going to be just 40 episodes of this series. And as you may know, um, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers took a lot of footage from Jew Ranger, which was a good idea because Jew Ranger, despite being very child friendly, has a lot of action sequences and special effects to use. Um, but when the series turned out to be a surprise success, they realized they needed more episodes. They couldn't just stop at 40 episodes. So after a couple of embarrassing episodes where they just reused footage from before or footage they haven't used beforehand, they actually hired Toei Productions as well as a creature suit making company called Rainbow Productions, although I don't know much about them. Toei Productions, the original creators of Jew Ranger, to make more footage. And this is how we got Jew 2, which is basically a bunch of original giant monsters and related monster suits, characters, and fight scenes that were used exclusively for the American Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, but was hopefully going to be used in a Japanese production, which never happened. Amazingly, though, despite having a lot of really great Jew 2 monsters made, Chaim Saban and the rest of the producers of Power Rangers realized that, contrary to popular belief, Japanese monster footage is a lot more expensive to pay for. So ultimately, they decided just to use more footage from pre-existing Super Sentai shows instead of trying to pay out to get more. And as much as I love the Jew 2 era of monster designs from Power Rangers, you could definitely tell they were all heavily influenced by like the handful of animal-based monsters from the original Jew Ranger series, the ones that people remember. Jew Ranger was about dinosaur heroes fighting mythical monster-based villains. But unfortunately, because of that, a lot of those mythical monsters get mistaken for just regular animal villains. Mighty Minotaur, for example, but most infamously Pudgy Pig. Pudgy Pig, or Dora Circe as it was called in the original version, is based on the chapter in the story of the Odyssey where Odysseus's men are turned into pigs by the sorceress Circe. Hence the reason why Pudgy Pig is a glutton and has a giant Roman helmet, of all things. Now, that's actually really clever when you think about it. But as far as an American viewer goes, it's just a giant wacky pig monster. So a lot of the Jew Ranger monsters just ended up being animal-based creatures. Granted, a lot of those were really great costumes, like Fighting Flea and Mantis are really good insectoid costumes. But of all those monsters, there's one that really does stand out, and that's the Lizinator, in my opinion, because he feels the most like a classical Jew Ranger monster. He feels more like a mythological gargoyle or rock monster, or even like a sort of earthly dragon, than he does just basically a lizard, as his name would imply. And indeed, he is a metallic-skinned lizard monster, reptilian, so to speak. And I really enjoyed his design, and even with the Arnold Schwarzenegger-inspired Austrian accent, they kept his voice different enough where it doesn't just come off as a pure impression. He's his own character. And I love how he is basically a meathead. And also, I know Power Ranger monsters can be really, really optimistic whack jobs, but he really does enjoy his work. Like, this is a monster who, if he wasn't actively trying to throw boulders at you or sending putties to run you over with their car, I think he probably would be a cool guy to hang out with if he could drink beer or whatnot. So, but yeah, he's just a very fun monster. I wish I could do more Jew Ranger or just Power Ranger villains in general. Originally, this was going to be a redesign of the character, but it's so similar to the original costume that I decided, what the heck, I'll go with it anyways. And let me see what the comments have to say. Oh, I know what a success Mighty Morphin Power Rangers was. I was there for it. All of it. Oh, yeah, same here. So, and then Warrior King says, great work on Lizinator. Classic Ranger Monster Bruiser. Always got a kick out of his voice. Yeah, as much as I love OG Power Rangers, I have to admit, a shame. A lot of the mythological theming for the monsters were lost in translation. I do agree Lizinator is very dragonish. Yes. And then Cody Batch follows up, great take on Lizinator, Raph. Yeah. Very happy with Lizinator himself. Not so much the background. Like, I'm very happy with the line work. Again, he's in a rock quarry, so this is directly based on screen captures from the monster. But I used photographs of real world pebbles and clouds taken by me for the texture, and it's not that great. I think the background's the weakest thing in this whole thing. Especially with how awkward and iffy this is. But other than that, I'm happy with the way this one came out. And I might repurpose him for the Enshohma series. Prioritizing. Yes, prioritizing. That's what you were trying to. That's what you wrote, Laura, and what I was trying to say. But yeah, prioritizing in this day and age artwork over real life. Now, from a monster who loves to throw rocks to a monster who is a rock. Okay, so I gotta admit, I've always enjoyed giants on a mythological level, but I've really kind of fallen hard for rock giants, pun not intended, because stone giants, I think they're like, you know how Godzilla is an awesome dinosaur-based kaiju, but then you have wackier kaiju like Space Godzilla, which is dinosaur kaiju but with alien crystals. That's what I think stone giants are to regular giants. Cody Batch quickly asks, how many Power Ranger seasons have you seen, Raph? I have seen basically all of them, with maybe the major exception being the majority of actually, the Neo Saban era, I think, is probably the one I'm least familiar with. Like, I tried watching every episode of Samurai and Mega Force, but couldn't mostly because Nickelodeon had horrible scheduling issues. And then, from what little, I've barely seen anything from Ninja Steel. I've seen a couple episodes from Dino Fury, which is actually pretty good for what it is, but I'm getting Dino Fury mixed with Dino Thunder or Dino something. I don't know. I've seen almost all of them, but then when it comes to the Neo Saban era, let's just play it safe and say I have not seen anything from the Neo Saban era, especially since I can't tell which is which. So, but anyways, getting back to Stone Giants. Oh yeah, Warrior King mentions, after the beer comment, I find myself picturing Lizinator in a bar drinking away his troubles with a gaggle of other Ranger villains. Yeah, on that bar on Onyx, on the planet Onyx. So this character is Rude Tormalane. Rude Torlamane. I hope I'm getting the name wrong. I hope I'm getting the name right. He's basically a stone giant, an outcast. Well, okay, not really an outcast. He was banished. He used to be the jester for an evil stone giant emperor until he was basically outcasted and banished to Earth. And while he's nowhere near as evil as his masters, he's still a pretty villainous character in his own right. But being a jester, he's pretty diminutive for a stone giant. I think this guy's like just a little over 50 feet tall. As you can, I kind of incorporated in his coloring kind of a comedian type outfit. There's his bow tie, there's his wacky vest, there's some bright pants. So yeah, it's weird. I was really thinking a lot about Doug Kenny, the voice actor and comedian, a lot of the characters he played on Mr. Show, with Bob Odenkirk. He usually always played like these kind of wacky characters who would come out in bow ties, and it's like, hey gentlemen, we got a big show for you tonight. So yeah, in a sense, I hope, damn it, let me get his name right. Tom Kenny, not Doug Kenny. Tom Kenny, the voice actor for SpongeBob. So I was thinking a lot about him and a lot of the skits he showed up in Mr. Show, and that's where Rude Tolamane's initial inspiration came from. Although design itself kind of just came out of nowhere, and he's called Rude Tolamane because, one, he has a very rude and crass personality. Again, this is a banished kaiju comedian basically from space, but his eyes also have Tolamane type jewels that fire. Like, as small and diminutive as this guy is, he's extremely durable, and he has giant crystalline eyes that can fire massive lasers. So he has that going for himself. The background is based on a Japanese neighborhood and construction site that I found a photo for, but I recreated through Photoshop, inked over it and colored it. I had to simplify it. I couldn't get all the details in there. There was no way in hell I was going to get the coffee machine and drilling device that was in the tent here. But to be honest, considering how simplistic the main monster is and how overly detailed and well done the background is, there's a major disconnect. It's the opposite problem I have with Lizinator here. I really love the way Lizinator came out, but I am not happy with the background. Or not that happy with the background, I should say. It's serviceable, but I could do better. Here, it's the opposite. The background is fantastic. I'm very happy with the job I did here, though it took much longer than I wanted it to. I'm not that happy with the figure, though it just doesn't match. It kind of contrasts too much between one another. But yeah, this character will definitely be in the art book I'm working on. Okay, so this character was going to be for the 22nd day of KaiJune, and this is Solardaz, and he's a very old character that I think I created back when I was 8 years old or something, but I rediscovered the original artwork and updated him. And basically he's a gigantic extraterrestrial robot, massive I should say. This guy is huge. Like, what is it? I think Godzilla would roughly be the size of his nose here. Who has the ability to control solar flares and redirect them or absorb them for his own evil abilities. So he's a literal destroyer of worlds, and he's probably one of the most powerful kaiju characters I've ever created. He will be in the art book, but this is basically him coming near a sun and what it would look like if you took a picture from him far away with like really advanced cameras. And it's a very, very simple illustration, but I think it comes out incredibly well. So, Warrior King says, you didn't miss much, Raph. The Neo Saban era was pretty weak. From what I hear, it's been pretty weak. So, although the last series, based on dinosaurs, I've heard a lot of really good things about it. So, and Solardaz, to be honest, as much as I love the simplicity of design, he is based on old medieval artwork of the sun, but given a bit of a villainous robotic bent. And while he is extremely advanced in his make, I couldn't help but put these two little bolts here. I really do like the way this guy came out. And if he cannot control the sun, then he has these gigantic spinning buzzsaw type blades on his body. Beast Morphers and Dino Fury. Yeah, Beast Morphers and Dino Fury were not half bad. Those were pretty good shows in their own right. Gonna take a quick drink. Oh my goodness. We've already reached the 90-minute mark. I'm gonna end this pretty soon. But yeah, Solardaz, as much as I love the design, I can never come up with a good name for this character. So it's just a combination between Solar and Zardoz, that infamous film title, because he is basically a floating robot head, much like the Zardoz of that movie. Although I haven't seen Zardoz in full, so I can't really confirm or deny whether or not the floating head counts as his own kaiju or not. Or it's just a vehicle that just looks like a giant floating head. So it could be a piloted mecha for all I know. So, but that's Solardaz. He was going to be the 22nd day of KaiJune. This one's the Braxton Knight, and this is like a legendary giant robot created and piloted by the Zeta Coolians. It is to the Zeta Coolians as what Excalibur and Talos is to us humans here on Earth. I will get into more detail on the Braxton Knight in an upcoming video that I did with Earth Baragon, who also did the digital inking on this. But yeah, I'm really happy with the way this one came out. And if this character looks a little familiar, it's directly inspired by the Flatwoods monster, but also the robot designs from Gotcha Man, also known as G-Force and Battle of the Planets. So I'm very happy with the way this one came out. So this one, I'm honestly surprised this one came out as good as it did. This is Twin Tails from The Return of Ultraman. And he will be a part of an upcoming video too that I did with Earth Baragon. Very similar to what we did with the showing off the artwork from 202 Vincent. But First off, I will say this, though. That is not his penis. He is basically a worm monster who... He's basically a worm monster who has curled himself up, similar to somebody who's fighting you while standing on their hands. So in a sense, that's why he's called Twin Tails. These are his tails, and he's curled up like a scorpion or somebody walking on their hands. And and as such, his body is just curled in a weird way. But that is not his penis. This is actually his true head. That still sounded wrong, but a lot of people assume that he is a dickhead. So in fact, that's what I'm thinking of calling the video. Twin Tails is not a dickhead, but we'll see. But Earth Baragon, this started out as a pencil sketch. Earth Baragon did the digital inking. I did the coloring and all the effects and the gradients. I did cheat a bit with the cloud texture here, but I think that works as well. Actually, no, I did not cheat with the cloud texture. The clouds were taken by photographs by me on a cell phone and kind of altered a bit for the clouds back here. But this one, I'm really proud with the way this one came out, and I couldn't have done it without the help of Earth Baragon. He's been a big help on this character. Now, here comes the embarrassing confession. I have not seen a single episode of Return of Ultraman, and if I have, I don't remember it too well. So I've never sat down and given the Twin Tail two-parter a proper watch. But despite that, I think this one came out beautifully. So, okay. Thank you very much for the really good comments on this one. And Warrior King says, I dig the mecha, which would be the Braxton Knight here. Reminds me of a bigger, badder version of something Skeletor or Hardak would send after He-Man and She-Ra. Oh, it's not that bad. But I see completely what you're saying. It does have a 1980s giant robot design feel towards it. So, and Cody Batch, thank you very much for the nice comment on Twin Tails. So, alright, moving on. Okay, we'll skip this guy. I'll explain later. But this is the giant form of Sergeant Zeron, a character I've previously shared on my DeviantArt page. And this is an older version of the same illustration. I did an improved version, and you'll see later. So we'll skip out on him. Okay, so this is a character that's been posted many times before, but I finally digitally inked and colored the character myself and made it a real illustration. And this is the Bolotnik ATR, which is the ATR stands for Aquatic Task Robot, and Bolotnik is a frog-like lake-dwelling mythical monster from Russian mythology. So basically the idea for this character was he was a gigantic oceanic robot created by the Russian government during the Cold War, both to defend Russia from sea monsters, but also to maybe destroy submarines secretly and quietly from enemy nations. Bolotnik ATR, though, gained sentience and decided just to live in the oceans proper. And thankfully, this was back, this is like old school Russian engineering. So the robot was built tough and built to last a long time. So yeah, I just decided just to make what basically is a giant diving suit robot who lives in the ocean and interacts with other oceanic kaiju for better or worse. But I really do like the way this design was made. This is also a character who I could easily cosplay because of my girth. I'll talk to Laura about that one maybe. So yeah, I'm not so happy with the way the background is because there really should have been more cloudy effects going on. But other than that, though, I'm happy with the way this came out. I'm not going to worry about the background. It is what it is. And this character will be in the Kaiju book. But he was supposed to be uploaded today. But again, the character has such a complicated backstory, I didn't want to waste time writing it down. So, and he was going to be saved for the 26th day of KaiJune, but that's not going to happen, so. Okay, so of course I had to throw in a sexy kaiju girl and one of my own making. This is Mickey the Sphinx, and this is an older version of, an older piece of artwork I took of her from 2006, I think, and updated it finally. And I might incorporate this into the Kaiju art book, but I'm going to probably have to change the background, even though in the background here is a very good photo collage. The sand here is just a yellow sheet that I found in storage. that I took several pictures of with my computer camera and put together and made into a semi-false desert. The pyramids are from a old vintage postcard of the pyramids, so it counts as public domain photo collaging. And the clouds are again taken from a cell phone picture and altered for the background with additional coloring and digital elements. So, weirdly enough, this, looking back on it, the way this is accomplished, it's very much like an old Flesher cartoon where they would actually make a real model background and have an animated characters working before it. If you've seen the recent Cuphead series and noticed some of the realistic model backgrounds with the contrasted with the simplistic animated characters, it's the same. It's the same thing going on here. Although with that says, one might say, I don't know, I'm really happy with what I was able to do with the sheet here. It really does look sort of like a desert. But at the same time, I can see criticisms for not being a very good background and being inconsistent with a real background, like with Bolotnik here. But Mickey the Sphinx, this character, I'm debating whether or not she ends up in the book proper. She's basically a giant fantasy sphinx from she got reverse isekai'd from her fantasy world into ours. Thankfully, she's a relatively nice enough girl, and she helps fight against other monsters. And Warrior King says, The Return of Ultraman is worth a watch, Raph. Excellent series. I'm trying to work my way through every era of Ultraman, almost done with Ace. Oh, good for... Yeah, okay. All the best with Ace. Toro's going to be wacky. Warrior King then follows up saying, sad how a lot of things were built to last a long, long time ago. Yeah, it's like, what is it? There was a reason why engineering and car repair were actually high school shops. Because back in the 50s and early 60s, it was expected that you would at least have some knowledge of how to repair items yourself. But now but those programs have been stopped. And companies would rather have you buy replacement parts and have more expensive replacements for cars and you fixing them yourselves. That's why old cars from the past you can easily fix yourselves, even though it's harder to find parts these days. Whereas new cars these days are basically plastic computers on wheels, and you can't fix something without destroying something else. So it's just the way it is, unfortunately. Warrior King then says, another fun mecha design, Raph. Cool design, story, and original design. Cool origin story and original design. Nice to see new work on Mickey as well. Indeed, although there's a better full body picture of Mickey that I have to ink and color, though it's much more complex than what's shown here. And also, I do have to ask, because she's in this skimpy outfit and she's in Egypt, that's not a good idea for various reasons. Like, yeah, maybe I should give her a more respectful outfit, but she is a giant Sphinx girl, so who's going to argue against it? So, but yeah, there's Mickey the Sphinx, and she was going to be the 27th day of KaiJune. Okay, this is the standalone version for Eviscerix, and I may share this later when the second issue of Kaiju Days gets released. And then here's the separated Jack Hoxton version with a new background. Mechano Hoxton, I should say. This is a rejected version of the Prince Kira Cobalt Beard Pachimon card. Originally, he was going to be in battle with this giant Martian ox buffalo monster repurposed from an old Brendan Tennant title card I did. And again, the rocks came from a friend's vacation photo. Miguel and Gabe are there witnessing the mayhem going on. And this card was going to be called Space War 1. However, I thought it was I did a lot of decent work repurposing the Rodan artwork into Prince Kira Cobalt Beard. So I felt that having him share the limelight with a relatively lesser Pachishoma repurposing was just kind of a waste of a good artwork. So I ended up just doing a different version of the card, and that's how we ended up just getting Prince Kira Cobalt Beard all by himself. But if I can find a replacement figure, this image will be redone. But this is sort of a rejected alternate version of the one that was previously shared. So Now, this isn't... Okay, so I've done Mechano Hoxton before. This is a very old illustration from 2019. But I never liked the way the background was. So I redid the background. Again, the cloud texture is cheating, but it's taken from an original photo from yours truly. The buildings are simplistic, but I think these are way more effective than what I had originally. Not too happy with the ground here, but it is what it is. And this will be incorporated either into the Glue comic book that I'm finally getting finished this year, or into the Kaiju art book, or both. So it never hurts to reuse your own material. But yeah, again, Mechano Hoxton is the personal giant robot of Jack Hoxton, and while Jack Hoxton is a very good mad scientist in many regards, robot engineering and repair is not one of them. Hence why his giant robot is so crappy. And this is a character that is both infuriating to draw because of all the different little details here, but is easy to draw because I don't have to have it perfect. Hence why he's in this horrible pose. Hence why his arms are off. It's like it's that bad of a giant robot. It's like Ray Bolger moving as the scarecrow in The Wizard of Oz is a lot more elegant and fearsome than how this thing works. So, and of course, Jack Hoxton being the horrific egotist that he is, he has to make the robot look like himself. And if you haven't realized, the name and the design is a play on both Mechanicon and Jet Jaguar, although there's a little bit of Ambassador Magma from the Space Giants thrown in as well. Okay. Warrior King says, Mickey sounds more interesting than an average isekai protagonist, honestly. I love the basic idea behind people being whisked away to another world and having adventures there. It's just dull when the protagonist is too powerful to be challenged from anyone in said isekai world. Yeah, I think that's the big problem with a lot of these shows. They're just power fantasies and they get boring after a while. And then Cody Batch says, that's fair, but watching the two battle like that is very cool. Thank you, Cody Batch. And for you, we'll look at it one more time. So, yeah, here's the thing with Prince Kira here. I'm not going to say the full name. It's too much of a tongue twister. He was a larger illustration where I could repurpose it as its own card, whereas the Martian Bull here, or Muro, I think is one of the names I was going to call him. He comes from a much smaller illustration that couldn't fill an entire picture easily. Sorry about the hiccup and the burp. Without the quality of the illustration being compromised. So for characters that are too small to be properly repurposed, they share an illustration with another monster fighting them. So now I just got to find a replacement for Prince Kira here. But yeah, Prince Kira has a little green laser beam here. And I don't know, I might keep the figures of Miguel and Gabe here as Professor Gonzo and Astronaut Gabe, or replace them with another picture, the same characters but a different pose. But yeah, I'm happy you like this one. This definitely feels like one of the Pachimon cards. And then Mechano Hoxton again, but he's going to have his own video, but it's going to be ridiculously short because I don't have much else to say about this character. Now, this is far from completed, but this is a preview of what the Marvel Godzilla versus Hulk illustration was going to look like. So yeah, but I got nothing much else to say. I said what I did at the beginning of this stream. Okay, so finally, this is Sergeant Zeron, who is sort of an evil alien robot conqueror. And while I don't have his original version available, this is his giant form. He's about 7 feet tall, but he can summon liquid and moisture and freeze it to become this giant sentient floating iceberg monster. And these are the guard units, which are sort of his henchmen. And again, I have Earth Baragon to thank for live tracing the guard units, although I digitally inked and did Sergeant Zeron himself. Now, I'm very happy with this illustration, but if I did more artwork of his giant form, I think I would do something better than these little dainty ice tentacles here. And while it's really cool while I'm kind of okay with the guard units being so homogeneous amongst each other that I can do the paste and the copy and pasting of them throughout the illustration, it's still a little iffy, but Earth Baragon gave me the confidence to finish it anyways because it does tell a story. it really does look like he's leading an invasion force against an unseen hero, with this huge crack in the universe being their entry point. Of course, Sergeant Zeron is also, despite being a freezing villain, he's also a horrific rageaholic who isn't very nice to his own men. He's not like most supervillains you'll find in American fiction or anime, who just kills underlings left and right just for shock value. But when he gets annoyed, he does go on a horrific rampage, or if somebody's in the way, he will kill them outright. Hence, these poor little fellows here, one guard unit that got too close to his terrible tentacles, and another one who's like, oh no, what did I do? Oh no, not me. So yeah, that's a bit of dark humor, but at the same time, I hope it doesn't come across as like villains too stupid to win type scenario. But yeah, there you go. That's basically it for KaiJune. So okay, so I'm going to be ending this stream pretty soon, but let me read the final comments here. Okay, Warrior King says, Mechanohoxen puts a smile on my face despite how unintentionally fugly he's drawn to be. The designs remind me of classic 70s era bad guy anime super robots. Oh, thank you, Warrior King. Okay, but that's all I needed to say about KaiJune. KaiJune is officially canceled, but I got plenty of artwork to be uploading onto my various sites. I think I'm going to do at least 2 uploads a week. 1 upload at the very least, 2 uploads a week, usually on Wednesdays and Fridays, and maybe 3. But at least I got plenty of illustrations done, and despite some of the fan art that I can't really repurpose, I have enough original characters here to incorporate original characters and recycled parody characters to use in my kaiju art book. So yeah, I'm just going to show off those as we go back. So yeah, KaiJune was not a complete waste, but at the same time, I could have done a lot better with this month. And I'd rather get back to some overdue commissions and other works than to continue doing KaiJune. But thank you very much for joining me today. If you have any farewell or parting comments or questions, please do so right now as I go back and look at the original characters here and try to pass the fan art stuff. But Gojishe, thank you again for joining me. You are always a welcome presence. And if I do a night owling, I'll see if I can try to bring you aboard. Cody Batch, long time no see. Always awesome to see you. And you say, stay awesome, Raph. Punch, punch, punch. Indeed. Warrior King, great always to see you. Laura, thank you for joining us earlier. And Jugless Juggler, long time no see. Great to see you as well. So definitely going to use the ninja in the kaiju art book. So, but Warrior King, sorry KaiJune had to be canceled, Raph, but thanks for sharing what you did manage to draw. Hope we see more from you in the future. Oh, you definitely will be seeing more from me in the future. Let me just get this month out of the way, and I will definitely have some really cool things coming up in August. Okay, so yeah, we're just going over the original stuff and quickly bypassing all the fan art. So actually, I think we're done right about now. So okay, so with that said, guys, thank you very much for joining me. This was really just an update video, and I got some work to do. Today's Father's Day, and I'm about to go cook. So I'll see you guys later.